Okay, early photography. When is the advent of photography? Is it 1839 or earlier? So let's take a look, and we're gonna figure out the definition of photography, how photography looked like when it first started, compared to what we understand as photography, as taking a photo today. This is my phone. This is my camera. Is it, when it first started, is it anything that's close to this shape, this kind of incarnation? What does it mean first? Photo means light in Latin, and graphy, right? The graphy means writing. So photography is meaning writing with light. It's all about capturing the light. And this is a definition of it. Have a read of it for a second. And see if it's anything related to what we think of as photography today. Right? It's about light. It's about all kind of chemical treatment to store the light particle onto something that's more permanent, like a piece of paper, like a piece of metal. Compared to what we understand as photography today, right? A phone, taking a photo of something, store things digitally. Right. So at the very beginning, I want to have a fair warning for you. At the very beginning, photography might sound more like a experiment in our chemistry class than something that's more day to day, like today, like we experienced it today. Let's go back even further to understand the concept of camera first. The camera were discovered before photography came along, and artists, they were seeing the projected image hundreds of years before they could capture it without having to draw it. So first, at the beginning, they've invented this thing called the camera obscura, which means the window through a dark box. Right. So they capture this. They have this little hole through which the light can go in, and the light were cast on a piece of wood, a piece of paper, so that you have the upside down scene of whatever it's outside. Right? It's a dark box that's invented in 15th century, and a lot of famous artists like the Vermeer, the famous Dutch artist Vermeer has used it anecdotally. Has used it to capture exactly what the landscapes looks like. Right? To try to capture the reality. We have another picture of it, and right, this is 17th century large portable camera obscura. Obscura means blocking, dark, obscure, right? Capturing this huge dark box when you bring it outside, you have the light casting all these images onto the wall inside of this dark box, so that you can just trace, I can just draw the scene, but you don't see it, right? With your naked eyes, you're inside of this dark box. But the thing is, you don't get to record it, right? Once you go out of the dark box, this box, it's gone. The very, very, very extremely early one, early experiment, or successful experiment with recording the scene onto a piece of something. We trace it back to 1926. I mean, 1826. 1826, right? Remember the time that I reminded you of? 1839. So what happened in 1839? If we have this image, right, we might think of it as the first image. I mean, first photograph by a French person named Niepce. By the French name Niepce, or so these are the two point in time that I want you to remember. 1826 for this one. Niepce, the Frenchman, using heliograph, which is casting the light onto a pewter plate. Expose all the light onto a pewter plate, and it's chemical treated, the pewter plate. So so that this chemical treatment has some kind of reaction to the light particles, so that it gets to record the scene. And in this case, the scene is whatever that's outside of the window, outside of Niepce's window at Grasse. What is heliograph, right? Well, first of all, you see this blur, really blur image of the road or some kind of building on both sides. But, can you call it successful? Yes, as an experiment, but not quite practical, right? You wouldn't want to, just a photograph be like this. This is too low a resolution, would you think, in a digital sense, right? But Niepce did it anyway. Well, before I go to the next slide, what is heliograph, right? Because this is earliest form of photography, earlier technology of photography that Niepce experimented. It's a photographic process that invented by this guy around 1822, right? It took him about 4 years to perfect this. I don't know if you think of this as a perfect image, but that's heliograph. He used to make the earliest known surviving photography from nature, right? Taking of it from nature, and how it works is it's an engraving made using a sensitized silver plate. Right? You treated the silver plate, it's a metal, and an asphalt or bitumen varnish on it, all kinds of chemical treatment onto it. You don't need to know like how exactly it works, but a layer of this varnish, right, of this treatment onto a silver plate, onto a and then he tried to make the engraving onto it with light. Okay. And how long do you think that the exposure needs to be, right? And for it to have enough light particle to react with the treatment on the silver plate, right? Because you put these things in the dark box, in the camera obscura. You put this silver plate inside of it, and then open the cap, right? So that expose that hole, and through which the light particles will come in, right? And cast this upside down image onto the silver plate, so that you need to allow the light particle to go in. You need to allow enough light particle to go in onto the silver plate, right? To react with the treatments, right? How many light particle you need, I don't know. Nobody knows. But what matters is how long the exposure has to be, right? Because you need to hold it and let the light in. It matters. Why? We'll know later, especially when we get to portraiture. When we get to portraiture, when it comes to capturing the image of a portrait of a sitter who has to be sitting, who has to be still, not moving in front of the camera, right? For this one, it takes 8 hours, 8 hours of exposure. No one can sit that long. No one can hold in one position, one pose for 8 hours. Not even 1 hour, not even 30 minutes, right? Not so practical, right? It's not clear, it's blurry, and you need a lot of light. You need a long time of exposure. But it's a start. Well, let's move to Niepce's good friend, Daguerre, who's himself a stage artist, stage painter. So for him, he in need of this kind of technique to help him with the stage setting, with the stage painting, all these things. So he experimented with it as well, and he developed a more a mature way of recording the light, which how about naming it after his name, Daguerre. Right, this is Daguerre. He took a photo of himself, right, with the technology that he invented. For him, for daguerreotype, he uses, again, same theory, light-sensitive copper plates, not silver plate this time, copper plate, coated with silver iodine. Right? Coated with silver iodine to react to the light. And this is the first image that he tested with. Have a look at it. A still life. Still life, well, it's a topic, it's a theme that's used for a long time. That's pretty common in Europe for even a couple of centuries ago. People like to do still life of precious things, of things that they are proud of. So as far as for the topic, it's not a big deal. It's not something that's unique. But have a look at this. First of all, I want to say, right, you think daguerreotype is better than heliography, than Niepce's experiment. Would you think so? You probably would, right? Because it's clear. You know it's the head, it's the sculptures, you know it's just different things, the wall, the paintings, right? But I still want to ask you this question. Well, first of all, and then the quality, right? The quality is better than Niepce's looking outside of the window of grass. But my question is, why did Daguerre pick this object specifically? Why still life specifically? Why not at first, like Niepce's, looking outside of the window, capturing an image outside of the window? Why not that one? Because you get more light, right? I say this is probably indoor setting, But if you face the camera outside to outdoor, you get more light, you get more light particle, and the exposure time may not be as long, right? Because for this one, for daguerreotype, at the time is still not too short, ranging from 5 minutes to 60 minutes. Still a long time. Still, closer to practical use, but not quite yet. You have an answer. Why pick these objects? Who's the audience? What's the purpose for Daguerre to take a photo of still life, of these objects? A sculpture of babies, of baby heads, some kind of instrument, some kind of a bottle, maybe a rattan, looks like a texture. Do you see? It captures the daguerreotype, right? For the first time in history, captures first of all kinds of different textures through capturing the details, right? Because you need to be clear enough to show the texture of the different objects. This is wood, this is a painting, and you see the painting, the carvings is revealed, maybe a bouquet of flower on the wall. You're able to tell this is a relief, high relief, some kind of artworks, and you were able to tell the details. This is a naked woman, right? Some kind of goddesses being portrayed on this relief. So these are the things that's best show, if not show off, the ability, the supreme ability at the time, right? The supreme capability to capture light and shade, to reveal the shape, to reveal the reality as we see in nature. You see especially this baby heads, right? You see the graduated tones of light and shade, because that's the only way to show a baby. Because in art classes, usually students might even be asked to draw the sculptures, right? So that to get a sense of the light and shade, to reveal that smooth different the complicated change on the surface. And if a photograph is able to capture that, it can replace painting, can it? It can be used in a wider world, can it? Still life, sculptures, artworks. What better way? What better way to show this new invention, right? So at first, that's what Daguerre tried, and you can kind of just imagine how excited he was at the time when he was able to produce a piece like this, compared to this. Two years later, 1839, right? This is 1839. This is considered probably the first first photograph ever taken. Again, exposure is still long, 5 to 60 minutes. By Daguerre, view of the Boulevard du Temple. The Temple Boulevard. Do you see any figures? Do I see any people in the scene? Seems to be a pretty quiet scene, looking outside at the window of Daguerre's place. But anyhow, you see it's much more clear. You see the building, you see everything clear. Oh, but I found this figure right here with a foot resting on a pump, looks like. It's only one person right here. But let me tell you, it's probably supposed to be a pretty bustling, or at least there were more people walking on the street. But none of them, except this one, were captured because of the exposure time. You have to stay there. You have to stay in place. You have to stay on the street for 5 to 60 minutes to be able to leave your imprint on the photograph. You know, people all have their errands to run, so they left the scene, and except for this guy, I don't know, for some reason he was able to stay there for so long, you know, probably waiting for someone to come, and that someone's never come, and he stayed there resting on the pumps, probably tired, but he left his foot, not just resting his foot on the pump, but on history as the figure on that first photograph ever taken by Daguerre. To this point, can we say Daguerre's invention probably can be used in wider in wider scope because it's crisp. You see the images, you see all the buildings, boulevard, trees. Yes, you can record details now. You can record details, visual informations right now. Right, crisp, clean, sharp, highly reflective because it's silver, it's metal. Right, it's not, you know, the slide here doesn't show the quality, the material, the texture of the plate, but I can show you later. You know, exposure time still long, but some kind of advancement, right? Some kind of progress. A big progress, rather, to a point that, you know, the Academy of Science and Arts in France in 1839, right? Daguerre brought this invention, this news, exciting news to the government, to the Academy, and the Academy announced this new daguerreotype, announced Daguerre as the inventor of photography, or this kind of invention that will change the world in the next 200 years.